Today's video is sponsored by Camel City Mill. So gonna have a pretty busy day today. I just ran out for some supplies. When I get back to the wood yard, we're gonna service some equipment. My neighbor Derek is coming over to assist with some oil changes. Actually, I will be assisting him. He is the mechanic, I am not. We've got to deliver a quart of firewood and also finish up the wood yard transformation. That's coming along really, really well. All right, this will be our little service station right here. These crates are really handy. Just flip it over, got a table. I got motor oil, little hydraulic oil. We don't have to change all the hydraulic oil, but we will lose some when we change those filters. I think, yeah, oil filter, hydraulic. I guess there's 3 hydraulic filters, 1 in the tank. I gotta figure that out, and a fuel filter. I also have an air filter as well. But check out these Kubota filters, made in Indonesia, Philippines, China, Vietnam, and Japan. All these filters come from a different country. No, how does that make sense? I mean, I'm sure there's a reason. I don't get it. And while the wood bunker is empty, nice parking spot for the mini skids. This gives you a good look here. The Kubota on the right, the Chinese one, and the Vermeer on the left. This is the biggest Vermeer, but really the Kubota is not that much smaller. The Vermeer is a little taller. I think it weighs about, what does it weigh? Around 800, 900 pounds more than this one, I think. And you know, obviously the Vermeer will lift a little bit more, but I can pick up and carry oak firewood baskets stacked with this one, no trouble at all. Couldn't believe it. So neighbor Derek will be here in just a little bit. I think I'll move my truck, got to move the tractor, dress things up a little bit, and I think I'll hook up to my dump trailer for the firewood delivery later on. Hey, Bo. You headed out the trail.
Say hi.
How's he been, Hannah?
Good. He loves being outside.
Hard to get him inside, huh?
Yeah, we waited, yeah. Because once he's outside, there's no coming back in until you want him out there.
So what's new? You've been really busy lately.
Chickens,
dogs, equipment. Every time a machine starts, he gets pretty excited. I think this is Bo's first trip to the woodyard, isn't it?
I think so. At least by himself, without his mom and dad.
What do you think, Bo?
I think it'd be hard. I was telling you, Eva, I think it'd be hard to be little and have to walk with your arms above your head when people hold your hand. Wow, there's a lot to take in. He could be here a while.
Wow.
Well, these stones are a little rough in the crocks.
My
All right, I am headed out to make a firewood delivery right now. You know what? I'm a Ford guy. I am. Not that it matters, but man, there's a nice Camaro in front of me. You got a giant hood scoop on it. I don't know if that's just for show, but by the sounds of it, I don't think so. All right, I'm almost to my delivery. I had to stop and see my insurance man on the way out to sign some insurance papers, but I'm trying to, I don't know what to do about all the insurance. I don't. I have, and I know I'm going to forget a few. Let's see, you've got your homeowners, your auto. I've got general liability insurance. I've got inland marine insurance. That covers all the equipment. I've got product liability insurance for the fire starter and my health insurance. You add all of those up and it's more than I used to make 15 years ago in a year. So I don't know what the answer is other than just sell everything and do nothing, or just keep paying it, I guess. I don't know. I gotta think that through. But this is a nice neighborhood here. This driveway that I gotta deliver this wood, it's a little tricky. I could barely make it when we had the GMC with the short bed. This long bed Super Duty with the trailer is going to be a little tougher, but we'll get it in there one way or another. So this truck and trailer, it's probably 45 feet long, something like that. And this is pretty tight, but I don't know if you guys caught that or not. This is actually pretty funny. I was talking about, I was complaining about paying for insurance, and then 2 minutes later, I ran into his mailbox. That didn't hurt nothing. There's they're like in these big planters, and I could see the sideboards of my trailers, but the fenders stick out a little bit. I was trying to get jacked around to get in here, and I saw the mailbox. Boop. Everything's good though. I told him about it. He just laughed. All right, heading back to the house, but I picked up 6 empty IBC totes. Last year, I delivered to him with the mini skid. He got 12 full baskets, and that worked pretty good. But it got me thinking about the whole firewood delivery thing. We all focus on cutting and splitting faster, but I gotta find a way to speed up delivery. The best way would be to find as many people as you can to pick up at our location. And the reason is this: between Levi and I'm saying in an hour, let's say an hour and a half. It doesn't take that long. An hour and a half, we can produce, I don't want to hit the Amazon driver here, we can produce a quart of firewood, hour and a half. But no matter where you're delivering it, by the time you hook up to the dump trailer, load it up, go deliver it, you're looking at an hour and a half or 2 hours. Same thing with the mini skid, loading baskets on the trailer. Get rid of this call right now. Another scammer. So I don't know what the answer is. I don't, except to get as many people as you can. You know, you could even discount it if they come pick it up at your location, because no matter how you shake it, I've tried everything, and it's not difficult to deliver the wood. I don't stack or anything like that. I just dump it, or if it's in baskets, I set it in place. It's not difficult, it's just time consuming. So in other words, it takes as long to deliver the firewood as it does to cut and split it and season it. You know what I mean? So I need to find a better way to do that. I love the dump trailer. I do. Situations like that right there, I think to myself, just an F450 or 550, something maybe 10 years old. I don't know. It's just a lot of work no matter how you shake it. Firewood is. You have to enjoy doing it. If you don't, believe me, there's a lot easier ways to make money, but I still want to try to improve on the efficiencies of it all. And delivery seems to be the bottleneck at this point. Got some crazy lady beside me here. I'm talking to Melissa on the phone, and someone pulls up beside me blowing the horn. I'm like, what's wrong with this person? It was her.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Earlier, I mentioned that today's video was sponsored by Camel City Mill. They make the greatest socks you've ever seen or heard of. And I'm not going to stop talking about these socks until everyone that watches our channel can experience the same joy that my feet have since I started wearing these. They're incredible. They really are. They wick sweat 35% better than cotton or polyester socks. They keep your feet comfortable throughout a 14-hour work shift. They keep your feet cool in the summertime, warm in the wintertime. They stay up. They're just an incredible sock. They really are. And the icing on the cake is they are 100% American made right down in North Carolina. They have a 10-year durability guarantee. They're just a home run. Get 10% off my favorite work socks from Camel City Mill with code Morgans10. Link in the description. So this is my neighbor Derek. How you making that?
Good. Yeah, we're almost done.
No, have you worked on a model like this before?
No, this is the first time on this one.
What's it like compared to like the Bobcats and stuff?
A little bit different. You have, one is transverse, one is traditional. Basically just meaning the engine is either facing this way or facing this way. Bobcats are the opposite of this. I'm used to the Bobcats, but that's just because that's more of what I'm normally working on.
Yeah.
But these aren't bad. This whole cooler pack comes out, tips back. You just flip this up out of the way. Then there's a bolt down at the bottom, a bolt at the bottom, and a bolt at the top. And you actually just pull it straight back, and then it tips back.
Okay.
So it gives you a lot more access to it. I wouldn't say one is better than the other.
Yeah.
The Bobcats are definitely a little more open as far as like all your, accessories and whatnot. But they definitely, you could tell that they definitely put some time into making it to where you could get to the filters. And
how'd you figure out the cooler came out? Because you couldn't reach anything.
Honestly, as soon as I saw where the stuff was located, I figured there was probably a process. I cracked the book open. Kubota does a really nice job on their books as far as making it pretty user-friendly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not bad. Once you get that tilted back, you have really nice access to the air filter, both fuel filters, engine oil, is right down there.
Was that what there's 2 fuel filters, 2 hydraulics, 1 oil?
Yeah, 2 fuel filters. You got like your primary, which is like your water separator. Then you have your fine micron, your hydraulics, which are those over there. You have your strainer filter, and then you have your other return. And then the engine oil filter, there's just 1, fuel filters 2, hydraulic filters 2. The only thing I noticed that's kind of a little bit of a pain, I just had to mess with this a little bit.
Yeah, that's a sweet little setup there you just made there. Yeah.
Luckily, I've kind of run into that before, on like loaders, that the engine is completely under the cab.
I just changed I did the sawmill, the tractor, four-wheel. I did a couple things.
Yeah.
On the tractor, the DPF filters, right? I mean, you can get to the oil filter, everything. The fill plug for the engine
right
oil
under it?
is kind of under the DPF filter. You know what I mean? And you got a series of stuff to get down in there. And then on the sawmill, I didn't know this. I'm standing on top of the mill. There's 2 oil ports on it.
I was going to say,
on that Yanmar.
Some of them are like right on the timing, and then there's one like right on the valve cover.
The other one's right beside the oil filter that I took off, and I didn't see it, and I'm standing on top of it. How long have you been turning wrenches and stuff? I mean, since we were, I mean, geez, probably since 2000. I mean, you know, on like the farm, and geez, I think Turner's was maybe like 04 to 06. But you've worked on everything from.
I mean, as a living, I've done it since 2005.
Since 2005, yeah.
Started at Highway, worked there about 4 years, and economy just kind of tanked real hard, and everybody got laid off at one point, and I chose not to go back there. I chose to go a little bit different route, and a series of changes and kind of jumping around just because the economy was not what it is now. You know, I mean, back then there was a whole lot more people in the workforce, and you really had to fight to keep your job.
Yeah.
It's not
now
like
you
today.
can't find anyone to work.
Now today, I mean, you can kind of write your own paycheck, you know, as far as the, you know, as far as our industry, at least.
I got to tell a story about Derek. Do you remember when we moved that gun safe into?
Oh, man.
So I had this gun safe. This thing was probably, I think it was 12 or 1,300 pounds. And I had a flatbed truck with a lift gate. Well, it had a wood deck on it. And there was me, Derek, remember that guy, Brock?
Somebody else come over.
There's 2 other guys, Brock and my neighbor, Al. And Brock was a big gym rat, always lifting weights and stuff like that. Well, we're trying to move the safe on that wood deck, and 3 of us on one side would like pull, and you get it to twist, and all of a sudden the other side just moved by itself, and we look around. He's on one side by himself, and there was 3 of us on the other side. And I remember Brock was like, "That's farm strong right there." He said, he couldn't believe it. Yeah.
I still remember trying to get the thing through the doorway. I was like, "You guys go on the other side. I'll just shove it through." It was all right whenever it was on it was on carpet, I think, eventually.
Yeah, remember we used a little PVC to roll it on.
Yeah.
And then stood it up.
But yeah, that thing, it was heavy. That was a heavy gun safe.
Now, some of this on this, it didn't even call for it yet, but I don't put enough irons on it to really, you know what I mean?
No, we traditionally, I mean, any customer that I have like farm-based or where you're not putting, you know, what I would consider, you know, commercial hours on it. Commercial hours are, you're running it all day, every day. You're going to want to go by the hours because you're going to hit that before a yearly service. This is what I would consider a yearly service because you're not going to hit, you know.
Yeah, 500 hours a year.
They were calling for 500 hours. You know, we used to do it at 250. I would just do it every year.
You know what I don't understand? Like my tractor has a 50-hour break-in period, okay, oil change. Heavy equipment Kubota, I don't think the first oil change is supposed to be till 500 hours.
I was going to say, it's all different.
So why, like...
honestly, I think it's just...
They know homeowners will go by the book and change it at 50.
Because they know somebody that's running a tractor, it's going to take them 4 or 5 years probably to hit
that's
500
true.
Hours.
Right.
You know, so I think they just don't want you to have 5 years, especially if you aren't keeping it indoors. They probably don't want to see 500 hours of, you know, heat up, cool down, because you get all the, you know, the condensation.
Yeah.
Whenever it heats up and cools down. Every time your engine, same as a fuel tank or hydraulic tank, that's why they have, you know, breathers on it. Like, that's why large equipment has a pressurized hydraulic tank. You know, because it, you know, it's going to hit a certain pressure and it's just going to stay like that. And then that way it prevents the tank from, you know, pulling moisture in. And then at nighttime, whenever, you know, it condenses down, oil is not like water. You know, water, you know, you can't compress water. oil, it expands and contracts quite a bit.
Yeah.
So whenever it cools down and the air inside cools down, it goes into, essentially a negative pressure, and it pulls in moist air and it condenses on the cool metal on the inside. And then what it does is it turns into moisture, and then it drops, into the oil.
Right.
And unfortunately, it goes to the base. It
Yeah.
sits on the bottom. And, like in fuel tanks, that's why people have so much trouble, is because you pull your supply off the bottom.
I gotcha. Yeah.
Hydraulic is not really quite the same. I mean, it's drawn off the bottom,
Right.
but it's not.
I used to have a Bobcat skid loader years ago, and man, that thing would freeze up.
Yeah.
I'd go right underneath of it, and it was the fuel line coming right at the bottom at the lowest point was always where it froze.
Yeah, but yeah. I mean, they're a nice machine. Yeah, for sure. I will say, I've worked on most all makes and models just over the past probably 5 years. We have a cat at the one location. I do not like servicing it.
Really?
It is not service friendly. I don't know if there's a certain process or what, but some of the filters you got to basically tip them completely on their sides. So you're just dumping all kind of oil,
Yeah.
down into the base of it. This one, they at least give you a nice little compartment in the back to where you just, you take 2 bolts out, loosen 2 up, the little plate comes off, and you can reach right in there. You can get to the filter if you want to. You can, wipe the oil up. I mean, these are definitely more service friendly than the cats.
What I like about the Kubota on this kind of stuff, though, is if you look at the undercarriage, it's very simple. There's not a lot of craziness.
This thing's built like a little dozer.
Yeah, but it's simple.
It's
like some of the new John Deeres are super nice, but my goodness.
Nice, but man, is there a lot of components.
Yeah. Which is why a new John Deere this size is literally about $40,000 more than this.
Zach he bought that newer, bigger.
He had problems with it,
He
or
had all kinds of problems with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had all kinds of problems with it.
That's what he said. He should have kept the old one.
He was not happy with with that machine. Yeah, he was not happy with that machine. I think they got it all situated now, but I know it was just leaving them wouldn't start, and then there was electrical issues, and there was hydraulic issues, and I know he wasn't too happy.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate because we got a dealer right in our backyard. I mean, it's 10 minutes away.
Yeah,
but yeah, it is what it is. I mean, all the new equipment is just so. There's just so much involved. There's half a dozen modules on them, all the different, the NOx sensors, the DEF sensors. I mean, it's
that whole DEF thing.
That's why
I get started. Oh boy.
I know. I'm in the same boat. You can put, a $200,000 truck out of service over a sensor just, failing. And it's, it has DEF, everything is good, but it's sensing that the DEF is not of good quality. Okay, well, how much is that? $1,800
for the sensor.
For the sensor.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay. Is there any way? Nope, can't get around it. You're just sorry, you're out of luck. Okay, we'll go ahead and order it. All right, well, now it's 10 weeks back ordered.
Yeah.
Okay, so you mean to tell me I got a 2.5 months of wait time?
A $200,000 truck sitting there.
$200,000 truck that I'm making some hefty payments on, and all because of one little sensor. International actually finally got to a point a couple years ago where if you had, I can't remember the specifics, but if you went to your dealer and you said, listen, I have done everything I can, and the DEF header was the issue, I believe, on those ones, where it would recognize the level of DEF.
Yeah.
And that was it. It wasn't a DEF quality. It wasn't
just the level of it.
It was just the level of it, and you couldn't get it. You could not get the parts. Go to order it. It didn't matter where you went, online, dealer, nobody could get them. So they finally got to a point where, I don't know who they went through, if it was the EPA or what, but if you would go to your dealer and you would apply for it, they would actually write a program and they would put it into the truck to enable the truck to run until you got the parts in.
Oh my god!
And then you would go back in once the parts were in, and they would switch it back.
Oh my!
You know, but talk about hoops to jump through for something that nobody wanted in the first place.
Yeah, I did a little research, believe it or not, on this subject, and like my Power Stroke in my truck, if it didn't have all that on, it would get probably around 20% increase in fuel mileage. Okay, that seems to be the general rule of thumb. So anyone that thinks you're out trying to destroy the environment by not wanting DPF filters. Picture if we were to produce
20% less fuel.
20% less fuel.
That's less fuel burnt to produce the fuel.
Yeah.
Less
Transport,
fuel burnt to transport it.
everything.
Across the board.
There's no way.
This is not for the environment. It's not. It is not for the environment. It is.
Think of that. 20.
You know.
I think I'll have to look it up. I'll do a video on that someday. It was like, I forget how many 150 million. 120 million barrels or gallons of diesel we burn a day, like 120 million. So if you could reduce that by 20% by not having all this stuff.
And then think about all the DEF that has to be produced, transported,
Yep.
and not just that, all the plastic that the DEF is in.
I know.
Between barrels and totes and, cardboard boxes and, even if you go to the pump and get it, they still have to transport it and put it in.
Yep.
And then you're paying for it. It's not terribly expensive, but it's an added expense. And
if they really cared or really looked into it all, there's no way I don't see a benefit from it at all.
There really isn't. Well, I think, aren't they considering?
They're starting to. Yeah. I can only hope. I'm not going to get too excited.
Well, they're considering. Now, this may have changed, but they were considering because of all the emissions of the DEF, like as it's being burnt.
Yeah.
Because they found out that like all the, basically like flowers and plants and everything that was by the highways
dying.
It's dying off, and they're like, what's changing? And I think it was. Out in the great state of California that they, found out that all the DEF emissions were part of it at least.
Yeah.
So now they're talking like they're going to go to basically just a DPF, diesel particulate filter, and you're just going to have to get it serviced. You'll have to, they'll have to make it. They'll have to make it to a point where it's, at least doable.
Yeah.
To where you can pull a unit out,
clean it,
take it, get it cleaned, or exchange it, But the only problem that I see with that is going to be availability. Because those things they're $5,000 to $10,000, I think.
Well, like a diesel option on a truck today is $11,000. Mm-hmm. $7,000 of that is all the emissions controls. The DPF,
Yep.
7,000. That's why everyone. Why are these diesels so expensive? They are a little bit more money, but most of it is in all the emission controls.
But I think whenever we did, it was a 620 Heister. Down at the one steel plant that I used to go into, me and another guy, we had put the entire system in because I think something happened. I can't remember what happened with that one, but we were down there to do an entire exhaust replacement. It was like $16,000.
Oh my gosh!
For that, for us to go down and replace that exhaust system. That's just the 6.7 Cummins.
Yeah.
That's not any great big industrial engine. That's the same engine that's in your pickup.
Yeah.
And not in yours, but in a Dodge.
Yeah.
But $16,000.
That's crazy.
Could you imagine being a smaller, not a small outfit, but a smaller outfit that you're watching money. That steel plant, it's spending money hand over fist,
Yeah.
But I just couldn't imagine being a smaller company and having to fork over.
Yeah, like a landscaper that just realized he lost everything he made all summer.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Yep. Local guy just went through that. Newer Chevy. Same thing. He ended up having, it was, I don't think it was into the teens, but it was like $8,000 to $10,000 on a truck that he had just bought not long ago.
Yeah, that stinks.
I couldn't imagine, just out of warranty and,
yep.
Man.
I'm keeping that Ford till it's got 100,000 on it and it's gone.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the Dad. Do you remember that green truck that Dad had?
Yeah.
Last? He got the highest end, best warranty that you could get with it. and it paid for itself like tenfold.
I did the same thing. It's the first
You
truck I
know,
ever bought the full. I mean,
it's worth it 100%. You know, could you imagine going out and paying? I think he paid 50 for that, and I think it was an 11 250 diesel. And it was nice truck, you know, and very well maintained, methodically.
yeah, your
maintained,
dad would. Yeah,
you know, methodically maintained, kept inside. I mean, it couldn't have had an easier life. You know, pulled a camper, bone stock, never hurt. But he still had problems. You know,
Yeah.
he still the entire DEF system, I believe, went on it or had to be replaced. You know, that was through the Ford dealer, obviously. Now, luckily, he had the warranty that basically he just had to go and pay, you know, $50 or $100 and
Yeah.
you know, for a copay, and you know they paid for it all.
Right.
You know, I mean, he definitely got his money back on the, on the warranty.
yeah.
You know, but well, that's why a lot of companies are going with gas trucks anymore.
Yep, a lot of the 7.3s are coming back
You know,
in the Ford.
I'll tell you what, I mean, that's been a good. We have one. You know, we have one of them running around, and it's been a good truck. I mean, it pulls nice. I mean, you don't get the mileage out of a 7.3.
But still, it could blow up, and you could replace the whole engine
100%.
for $7 grand.
That's even why this truck, you know, I would never buy this truck. It's an 08, and it's just got the 5.4 gas in it, and I would not buy an 08 to 10 Ford in diesel because it's 6.4.
Yeah,
they're just the worst motor that they ever built.
Yeah,
they're rocket ships whenever they run. They are. I think that was still the fastest factory pickup diesel that has been built. I don't know that the 6.7s.
I always liked the 7.3 was great because it
oh yeah, just chug along.
Didn't have enough power to hurt itself either. You know what I mean? And
I mean, there's so many. I can't remember what the one guy that does some videos. I think he's over 1 million miles.
Really?
On his. I mean, basic maintenance and, you know, little odds and ends, but I think it was the original engine.
I saw a guy at Sheets the other day with one. He had 580 on his.
And I mean, that's doing great.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's because honestly, the biggest thing around here is just the rot.
Yeah.
You know, if you could have a 7.3 with a ZF6 behind it and have it down south, that truck is going to die long after we do.
That was the only problem they had around here early on. The oil pans would rot out on them.
Yeah, they were really bad for the pans rotting out. And if you had a 2-wheel drive, you could do the pan. If you had a 4-wheel drive, you
had to pull the motor.
You had to pull the motor up.
Yeah.
You know, I think you could sneak it out if you picked it up really high, but at that point, you're basically pulling the engine out.
A lot of guys JB welded them and sold them.
Did you ever see they actually make it's like a fiberglass?
Yeah, like almost like a 2-piece or something.
What it is it just goes right up. You clean, drain the oil out. You get every bit of oil out that you can. And if I remember right, you don't even use the same oil drain hole. It basically, they have like an epoxy, and it's like I don't even know how to explain
big Band-Aid on it.
Almost like a diaper.
Yeah.
You glued this great big diaper on the bottom of it, and it basically, I mean, it fixed it.
Yeah.
It did fix it. There's, it's like a shell. It was almost like a shell.
Yeah.
Those trucks were great. Yeah, they were great. They got decent mileage. They were, but definitely not the same anymore.
Well, this thing's going to be ready to go for summer here pretty quick.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we'll be done here in a little bit. We'll get a grease job on it, and, it'll be basically done. I already blew all the coolers out and everything. At some point, you may want to grab, this is a crankcase breather filter that goes in here. And the only reason I say that is because around here with the winter, what'll happen is they'll get condensation in them and they'll freeze. And then it'll actually, unfortunately, if it freezes really bad, it could actually cause issues with the turbo.
Okay.
Where it tries to pull in your crankcase ventilation, and what happens is we had trouble with them on the Heisters and Yales. And what'll happen is it'll suck the seal out of the turbo, and it'll just fill the engine up with oil. Yeah. It'll suck out 5 gallon of oil, like right now. Crankcase ventilation filter.
Crankcase ventilation. I didn't even see that one in there.
They probably didn't really come out. I think it just, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
you know, you can see the, I don't know if you can really pick it up, but those are water droplets.
Right.
You know, you can see the water on, you know, kind of on top of the oil. And I actually had a, this one will be fine for now, but just sometime grab it and we'll put it in. You can see how easy it is to do. But yeah, basically, I actually just had over at, you know, Freedom Farms over there. I work on their stuff. And he called me the one day, and they have, I think it's a 6105 John Deere, bigger John Deere. And he called and said, hey, we're throwing this code, and, you know, this is what it's doing. So, yeah, that's fine. I'll stop over. And luckily, I have access to a scanner that can communicate with the John Deere software. Got over there, and it was crankcase ventilation pressure, exceeding range, and there was a couple other codes that kind of go hand in hand. And that one is not near as easy as that to do.
Yeah.
It's a whole lot more involved to get it out. But it was, whenever I pulled it out, you could just see water just, you know, soaking out of it. And what'll happen is that water basically just sits on the top and it freezes.
Right.
And then it can't breathe. You know, it's trying to breathe through that, and it just can't. You know, so then it pops the code for the pressure, and then it derates it, and it'll kind of come and go. You know, if you warm it up, it'll start to breathe again. You know, so that's what I told him. I said, well, run it, you know, long enough that it just idle it. Run it long enough that it warms up and see if it goes away, and it did. So that's whenever you can get the breather. It just they stock it at the dealer, but that's unfortunately that's a problem that, you know, if you have a mechanic that hasn't worked on anything in maybe 15 years and he jumps onto one of these newer ones that has that, it's gonna really throw them for a loop, you know.
Now, which one is that?
That should be.
Is there one in?
That's your high pressure filter, and you can always tell because the where it has the like up at the seam, it's like real thick.
Yeah.
You know, that's your high pressure hydraulic oil filter. And then if I remember right, I believe on this one under that plate, we take those 4 bolts out and that plate lifts up, and I'm pretty sure. We'll find out whenever we take it up, but I'm pretty sure that that's where your strainer is.
I gotcha.
You know, you didn't actually have to buy that strainer. You can just clean them, you know, because it's not a tight micron. It's just a stainless steel.
Just a strainer.
You know, it's like equivalent like a Brillo pad.
Yeah.
You know, about. But yeah. I mean, it is nice though. I mean, they did a really nice job on, you know, like if you ever had to like pull the cab or anything on this. It's really nice having that header there. You know, you just pop those off. You know, they're all color coded and everything. I mean, you could pull the cab off this thing in a couple hours. Yeah. You know, where a lot of them, you know, you're pulling everything off of it. You know, this.
Looking at that fuel filler, I don't understand. This one, it does not take fuel well. You would think that it would. It looks like it's not enough of an angle. You just have to pump slow. You know what I mean?
I wonder if it's just that strainer.
It must be just the strainer.
You know?
Yeah, that's kind of jacked up. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Man, I'm glad you came over for this one. I am.
I'll tell you what, man, that cab. Whew,
heavy.
It's heavy. You know, that was the first time I flipped. And a lot of it is the HVAC package.
Yeah.
Because you have your evap coil and, you know, your heater core and everything. That adds, you know, that does add quite a bit to it. Plus, you got all your glass for the cab and, you know, everything else. Man, with a door, I'll tell you what, man, you got to give it a pretty good heave-ho to get it.
Yeah.
Because you got to, like, get it up over.
I had it up just once before.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, like I said, though, it's very nice, though, as far as... the Bobcats are a little tighter as far as some of the hoses and stuff goes. So, I mean, this is definitely better set up for, you know, like servicing if you have a hose that rubs through or, you know, you're changing something. This is definitely easier than the Bobcats to work on. But, I mean, overall, I mean, they're all, you know, they're all similar and they're all a little bit different.
Yep.
Yeah, nice machine, though. They're built pretty stout. I like the weldments are all, they're all very well made, and it's definitely a nice machine. You remember back in the day, man, whenever we had some pretty chintzy brands,
Back when I worked for Schneider's, we had a little Bobcat. I mean, it was years and years.
Bobcats even had some bad.
We called it the Wildcat. It'd try to throw you out and run you over. You know what I mean?
That was probably a little 553.
I don't know that thing. Oh, yeah.
Or 753s. They're
no,
short,
it was not.
too.
It was a 553.
Okay, those are a small machine, and man, they just wheelies. Yeah, don't try to load that thing. You can't drive up a ramp.
It would try to throw you right out of it.
Well, they're so heavy anymore. Holy cow!
This machine here is like 12.5 or.
Yeah, well, this is the biggest one that they make. Right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. But yeah, it's nice cab, easy to get in and out and whatnot. I mean, it's definitely got the. Definitely got some time put into it as far as the
Derek,
service.
You need to start a YouTube channel. You are a wealth of knowledge for people.
Yeah, but somebody will still be, they'll still correct me even.
Oh yeah, you gotta get ready for that. Yeah, no, you always get those people. But no, it's great. Derek and I have been friends forever, and it's great having you as a neighbor. We worked that little. You will never need to cut firewood again because I just keep supplying you wood, and you come turn wrenches, and we're good.
Yep. But I don't know. This is just, everybody always asks me, oh, what made you get into working on equipment? I was like, I just took too long to decide what I wanted to do in life, and I just already knew how to do this. So,
right.
You just, honestly, it's just over the years, you get to know the brands and the process, and once you can wrap your head around general hydraulics and general electrical systems and whatnot, they're all built within a degree of this similar platform.
Have you found that normally when there's a problem, it's usually the most obvious?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I've had, just not too long ago, little plate compactor, it was stupid. The thing, it would fire up and it would just immediately shut off, fire up, shut off, fire up, shut off. It had plenty of oil in it and everything, and it had a little oil switch in it. But here, what it was I think because you have to lay that down in your truck, to haul it. I mean, unless you want to strap it, but all that weight's up real high. But you a little jumping jack, and but it was just that stupid little float switch in there.
Yeah.
Whatever it was, it had like a little sticky spot, and it must have been whenever it laid down.
Yeah.
And the switch, went to the, because whenever that's what closes and it shorts the coil out. Yeah. That's what shuts it off. And
I told you a couple weeks ago, I messed with my dump trailer for an hour because it puked oil out.
Oh, you were saying about
puked oil out. It wouldn't power down. And I come home, I'm checking all my connections and everything. And here the controller plugs into the cable.
Yeah,
and it was loose. Yep. You know what I mean? Yep. And after I'm like, I tightened it up, it works fine. Put more oil in, I'm good to go.
I'll tell you what, that's Freedom Farms. You can look at it. There's a battery in the back of my truck. I don't know how you didn't burn the thing to the ground.
Really?
I came pulling in to work on that John Deere. Had that crankcase ventilation filter issue. I come pulling in, and Tim, one of the owners, the whole family are just good people, and I've known them for a while now. I actually used to rent them equipment whenever they had that show, Farm Kings.
Yeah.
I'd rented their family some equipment, from Bobcat. And so just over the years, we've kind of stayed in touch, and he called and needed that tractor work. I come pulling in, and there's the tractor, and there's Tim over there, and I see smoke coming out. And it's a newer dump trailer. It's not like it's an old one. And so I look over, and I look in, and it's kind of getting dark out. And I'm like, Tim, those aren't supposed to glow.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah. I was like, do you want me to work on that thing? Just whenever I get some time, he's like, yeah. So that's honestly how we run into a lot of work, is just being there and being available. And anymore, it's tough. I mean, I've had people say that they've called, and it's not one brand that's any worse than any other. It's just any brand across the board. It's either we're $5,000 to come out and change a hose, or we can't have anybody there for 10 weeks. Yeah. There's nobody to kind of fill that little niche. Yep. And I go in a lot of my work is evenings.
Yeah.
You know, so I go in whenever the customers aren't working, and, you know, I can go in and do what I have to do. Hunters is open like 24/7 almost. I think there's only like one day. I think it's like Saturday and a Sunday that they're closed. They're only open until like noon on Saturday.
Yeah.
They reopen or Monday morning. But I can go up there at 10 o'clock at night. You know, I was working.
Yeah.
I had exhaust manifold bolts were broken in their big Pete. And, you know, find out, okay, you know, you find out what the problem is, but then you're like, oh crap, what do I do for,
Yeah, right.
you know, I don't have those studs on the truck. So I call up Hunters. Oh yeah, we got them in stock. Yeah, no problem. Ran up there, got them, came back. I was able to, you know, get the broken off pieces out of the head without pulling the manifold, and, you know, customers back up and running. And
Next
I mean,
morning.
they're another very good family. You know, I mean, the Nesbitts are awesome people. That's actually who all the filters are for in the back of my truck right now. Went up, worked on one of their machines last night. They had a brake can go bad the other day on a driver. Was able to go up and, you know, just get them to a point where they could, you know, finish their deliveries.
Yeah.
Get it back to the shop. Again, Hunters is 2 minutes up the road.
Yeah.
Go up, pick up the parts. You know, I go down and
Right.
put them on, and they're back up and running before the next day. You
Yep.
know, so very good people.
All right, Derek finished up a while ago. Then I had to run out for a bit. Now we're going to fill her up with Def. Check this out. Nice touch. That is the used oil right there, all taped up. Said used. My books. What I got left. I like getting guys like Derek on camera. We went kind of long, but if you just listen, you can pick up on a lot of little things. You know what I mean? It's nice to talk to people that are good at what they do. This machine right here would have taken me at least a half a day to do, and what Derek did in just a couple hours. You know what I mean? I wish I wasn't out on that firewood delivery so I could have seen everything that he did, but we kind of went over everything, and it's good to go. We're ready to roll. The excavator, I think, is the last thing we need to get. It doesn't have a lot of hours on it right now, but I want to change the oil every year in it. But we'll probably do fuel filters, hydraulic filters, all that stuff. And everything should be good for summer. But anyway, I think that's about it for today's video. Appreciate y'all being here, and I will catch you on the next one.